Hello, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to Archant Towers. It's blue sky outside, sun is shining, and it's a lovely Friday. I'm sure you guys may have finished your work or travelling home, doing something fun. We're still here to help you tee up tomorrow's game. Norwich City, of course, heading to Sheffield United. Disrespect derby number 3. 3, Pad?
3.
Take it.
Third one in the trilogy.
How exciting. Get your questions and comments in on the feed below. Let us know your thoughts ahead of tomorrow. Any questions you want to ask, where you're watching from, because we always like to be a bit nosy. Anything interesting, say it, and we will digest and deal with it as necessary. Paddy, how much are you looking forward to tomorrow?
Yeah. Apart from the trip, which is never that pleasant. But yeah, the actual game, because if we get what we got last year, then that's going to be pretty raucous, pretty intimidating, aggressive in parts, edgy. And if Norwich come out the right side as it did last year, then big statement for me. I thought Farke was good on that point today. It could potentially be 1 point from 9, which would be a hell of a lot of doom and gloom, or it could be on the back of really throwing it away against West Brom, going through in the Cup, good point at Birmingham, scoring plenty of goals. You know, it is a mood changer, just 190 minutes, because as Farke himself said, you go to Sheffield United and get something, you can go anywhere in this league and not be scared, so he knows the magnitude of it. And hopefully the players do as well, because they will certainly be put under pressure, because as much as Wilder himself has played it down, reality is there'll still be a little bit of a lingering sense of frustration, I think, maybe more so amongst the Sheffield United fan base than the manager himself. But they clearly had an issue with how Norwich went about it this time last year, and they will probably be keen to put the record straight. So if Norwich aren't at it, they'll get run over the top of.
It's quite remarkable. I seem to pick it up online just how
still there.
How the Sheffield they have the chant about playing the Norwich way that they sang at QPR apparently.
How's it?
I can't really remember it. If anyone wants to send us the lyrics, do it. But basically, mocking the fact that if you time waste and roll around on the floor, that's the Norwich way, and they were playing up to the fact that Sheffield United were doing. Their own side was doing that at QPR in their comeback win last weekend. So it really has stuck. And of course, they sung it at Carrow Road when they were
time wasting at
2-1.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, and I think even their fans, I don't know if it's just blunt, myopic views, but they don't really seem to get the irony, or maybe it's just banter, and that's the way it is. But certainly,
I mean,
it
to
was
be
a
fair,
tasty game, wasn't it?
I mean, a lot of that might have been really fanned by. We've replayed it again this week. Wilder's post-match at Bramall Lane, which was just absolutely astonishing to go off on the tangents that he was going off on. But it kind of amplifies, doesn't it? And then the fan base will pick up on that, and they probably think, well, if the manager thinks that, then we're well within our rights to think we were the aggrieved party. But I don't know. Maybe because we're coming out conversely from a Norwich angle, whether we don't potentially look at it in a detached view, but I don't think a neutral watching that game last year would have thought Norwich was some sort of absolutely reinvented the idea of gamesmanship or time wasting. I don't buy that at all. So it was a very, as I say, strange but quite invigorating atmosphere, and we'd settle for that tomorrow, as long as I say, Norwich compete in every aspect, both physically and technically, because they'll need to. Yeah,
likewise, as long as no one throws any bottles on the pitch and no one punches anyone after the game. If we could do those two things, that would be good as well. So it's fair to say that Daniel Farke kind of played it all down, didn't he? Him and Chris Wilder, they're all on good terms after what went on. And
at the minute,
do you think it might not be on the dugout when it's all getting a bit?
Well, I'm pretty sure Wilder won't be extending a hand of friendship for about 90 minutes or so. He'll be every bit as confrontational, won't he? Because I think that's in the guy's nature. From the bits and pieces that I've had any dealings with him or been in a room with him, he's just a very combative, pugnacious type of character. So that's what he is. Fair enough. He's obviously had success in his managerial career, but he clearly he's a Blade by birth, I think. So he must be absolutely desperate to bring success to that club, and that certainly shines through. But they've not started particularly well this season, have they, to be fair? I mean, they won at QPR last week, but that was their first win of the season. They've gone out in the Cup midweek, so I don't think it in the sense of drawing a parallel with last year. Last year when Norwich went there, that was the first time they got beat at Bramall Lane. They'd started absolutely unbelievably well, following promotion from League One, and they were riding that wave. So I don't think Norwich are going back into an environment where they're facing a team at the crest of their powers. So that to me is quite something to draw confidence from, that, you know, if Norwich are at it and then can eradicate some of the basic defensive errors we've seen, then they should certainly create chances, because they've created plenty and scored plenty. So it's just whether, and Farke alluded to this again today, can they resist when they will inevitably come under pressure, when 30,000 are baying for the referee to give them every decision under the sun. Can they resist in those periods? And if they do, they'll create chances. And as I say, Sheffield United aren't by any stretch one of the better teams in the division. So, you know, let's put it in context. Yes, it'll be quite an intimidating place to go, but it's not, you know, it's not mission impossible by any stretch.
No. Sheffield United look a little bit weaker at the back. I mean, they've conceded as many goals as Norwich, but they have played an extra game in the league already at the moment, as things stand. They signed Oliver Norwood, didn't they, during the week? I don't know if he's going to be involved this weekend, but that's on loan from Fulham. So let's do the team news. Is probably the best thing to rattle through some of that. Of course, we did a little video after Colney as well. Good news that Tom Treibel and Marco Stiepermann are not too bad, and they'll both be available. But obviously the blows with Kenny McLean, who looked pretty decent in his first showings, and how he was getting around the pitch.
Yeah, that
could be a little bit of a blow. That and then we're going to have this issue with the left back again, aren't we, or left wing back, whichever he decides to go with, Daniel, in terms of Ivo Pinto being injured or sickness, wasn't it? Sickness bug. Yeah. I mean, listening to his quotes again, to me it sounds like he might be tempted to give Jamal a run.
I think so, because James' husband is nowhere near it now, is he? By Farke's own admission, wasn't happy with what he saw at Birmingham, and then, you know, he's been out of the mix completely for the next 2 games. So, given what they're going into, I don't think you then pitch James' husband back into it. So he did say with Jamal, who was on the bench obviously midweek but didn't get on, that was more a reaction to the way the game was going. Obviously it looked like penalties for a long period of time. He had to throw on attacking players. The Treibel change at half time was enforced because there was an injury, so he basically ran out of subs. I think he would have liked to get Jamal on the pitch and get some minutes into him, because he's another one who's not played any pre-season. But, you know, you think, was he 20, 21 years of age? He's obviously trained well in recent weeks. So, you know, in terms of can he go in and do a job? Yes, I don't think from a physical point of view that would be an issue. It's just the lack of football. But given you've got Ivo Pinto operating as a left back, it sort of shows the limited room for manoeuvre. And I still think that might be an area they're looking to do something between now and the 31st, if they could do. You know, if there's an option there, maybe a Premier League loan, left-sided defensive option. Because, you know, if Ivo Pinto's having to be thrown in there at left back, then you clearly don't have ample resources in that part of your squad, do you? But I mean, ultimately, if Jamal is fit, then Jamal is probably going to be the first choice. So it's just whether they can get him back earlier than probably they would like to. I don't think they'd really want to pitch him into Sheffield United away, would they? But yeah, needs must. I think if Ivo definitely isn't available, husband doesn't appear to be in favour. Do you go either Jamal or maybe Stiepermann? Stiepermann played left back there at Bramall Lane last year, did quite well, I thought, but it's not his natural position. So yeah, I mean, it does kind of point to Jamal, unless, and I put this to Farke, whether you go with a 3. They play a 3 at the back, maybe you match them up, and then it lessens the, you know, obviously you still need a left wing back option, but that then brings into play maybe a Stiepermann or 1 or 2, maybe even Hernandez could do that. But if you're talking left backs, then it's probably only going to be Jamal, I think.
Not wishing to give away too many secrets, but you of course have to put a formation and a side in the paper.
Yeah,
for the
I'll put Jamal in. Yeah, I'll put Jamal in. I thought he might go, if now Treibel's fit. Again, looking at what happened at Bramall Lane last year, Treibel and Tete were excellent. Yeah. Really shielded the back 4 as it was that day. And that was the first signs for me that was a partnership that could really do some damage in this league. So if Treibel's fit, you put him and Tete back together, you play a 4, and then maybe Hernandez, Leitner, Pukki behind Rhodes. I think that's probably how I would look to go. But you know, he did make the point that he apparently caught Darren Moore off guard. Obviously not enough to get the points as it turned out, but apparently Darren Moore had said to him after the game that he was very surprised that Norwich didn't go with a 3. They expected Norwich to go with a 3. So as Daniel said today, to have that flexibility tactically in formations as well is a good thing, because if it's going to keep opposition guessing, then there's an upper hand there for Norwich, isn't there? But yeah, I think tomorrow 4-2-3-1 maybe would be my guess. Cool,
excellent stuff. Okay, well, you've got a couple of messages here. We've ticked on some of those bits. Simon Meadows with the injuries to Evo and Kenny. How you set that defensive midfield in view of Sheffield United. It is worth, as you mentioned, that Sheffield United, I think Daniel Farke was quite he's extremely complimentary of Chris Wilder, which may have been a kind of let's soften you up with a bit of praise and see how we get on. But he did praise the fact they have quite a unique approach, and that they have. I didn't know if he meant that they change their tactics, so they offer a special challenge depending on who they're playing against, or whether it was just the unique way they set up and go about it, because they do have a real energy to them, and it certainly carried the respect of Daniel. So, and it's a three at the back that's worked pretty well for them. Last year.
Yeah. I think Coots I'm not sure, I should have looked, but he was their key man last season, and then he got an injury not long after the Norwich game, actually.
Broke his leg, yeah.
And he's not, he didn't feature the rest of that season. I don't think he's been in and around it this season either.
He's not quite ready. I think he's close, but he's been a big miss for them.
He's a talismanic player for them, so to have him missing in terms of the combative nature without the ball probably doesn't help their game. But as I say, I think Borough beat them quite easily, didn't they, first week of the season? But you got a QPR, you got give them their due. As Norwich found out last season at Loftus Road, that's not an easy place to go to, but they clearly got the result there. And I think he made a few changes midweek for the League Cup game, so I wouldn't read too much into that. But as Wilder, I saw in the build-up, said they haven't won at Bramall Lane this season, and they're desperate to put the first one on the board. So yeah, as I said, at the risk of repeating myself, if Norwich aren't bang up for it in terms of the intensity levels and the willingness to scrap and fight within the laws of the game, then they will get run over the top of. So you would hope the Hanleys of this world will be well aware of what's coming and react accordingly.
Duncan Edwards, who is known to have his tongue in his cheek sometimes when he tweets, he's posted, "Are we already at the must not lose stage? 1 point from 9 would be extremely disappointing, and the games do not get any easier." Yeah. Luke Partridge has replied, "Must not lose stage, come off it, it's been 2 games." But it's interesting, isn't it, because Birmingham was probably a missed opportunity in some ways, but they did well to get a point. Yeah. West Brom, a huge missed opportunity in terms of the way they completely left West Brom off the hook with those errors just either side of half-time, of course. And the rest of the month is a real tricky one when you look at Leeds,
Preston,
in good form, Alec Neil, obviously, a derby, and now, of course, a horrific trip to Cardiff in the middle of that week as well. So so if you do miss those opportunities, you're not always going to get those opportunities to miss later on when it gets tough. So, what do Norwich need to come away from this? Because I get as well, just the fans, they aren't forgetting what happened last year. That is in their minds in terms of how difficult it was last year, and that they want to see progress too. It's a difficult balancing act, I think.
Well, yeah, but I mean, ultimately, this idea that it's a tough month or it's an easier month in the Championship, it's just take it as it comes. Every game has its own unique challenges, but Farke is well aware of it, as he said today. You go from stupid mistake from the keeper, very poor penalty from Rhodes, and you possibly run out winners against West Brom, and then it's 4 points from 2. You beat Stevenage in midweek, and they're going there with their tails up, and as he said, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, fans are thinking promotions on the cards and with a team at the moment, and then you come away tomorrow from Bramall Lane, you've been beaten, and it's 1 point from 9, and Leeds and Preston next, then you do start to fear. That is unfortunately the nature of the beast. It is so filtered through almost a 90 minutes, and setting that aside, my concern is that they've had opportunities to win both against Birmingham and West Brom, and they fall on the wrong side. Now that is a major issue for me, because they're getting themselves in winning positions. They were leading against Birmingham, and they were leading again.
No, they weren't. didn't take the lead against Birmingham, but obviously they had the chance to take the lead when it was 1-1.
Yeah, well, sorry, West Brom they were leading, and they were leading at Stevenage, and in both of those games, the game management was non-existent. They allowed both of those back in far too easily, and that cuts to, irrespective of what personnel are on the pitch, just within the squad is the nous there. Hanley said that, didn't he? Streetwise, is that gene there? If it's not there tomorrow, they'll get beat. Simple as. So that's my underlying concern, that they're engineering positions of strength in games and then not having the wherewithal to see it out, to ride out the difficult moments. Now that might come. It came last season. They had an horrendous start to the season. Then they went on a run where it looked like they couldn't lose a game until they probably got too far into the League Cup in terms of the gruelling nature of all that entails, going to Arsenal and what have you. But yeah, so beyond what happens tomorrow, it's just, again, if they get themselves in a decent position and then come away with nothing, they're the type of questions that would concern me, rather than 1 point from 9, because it is, as the second person you quoted there said, it is ridiculously early to be worrying too much about defining games. But ultimately, you're going if you limp into the international break, we all remember the gnashing and wailing after Millwall last season. We don't really need a repeat of that, because we have been told, and quite rightly, this, when there's a work in progress, becomes something a bit more tangible. And I don't think it's fair game to say we're still working towards what we hope will happen around the corner. They've had plenty of time now, in terms of Farke and Webber, to be putting a team out on the pitch which can offer a little bit better than mid-table, and they know that, and they've said that. There's no limit. I think Webber reiterated it yesterday at the fans forum. There's no limit on the extent of what they could achieve, but the baseline is far better than 14th. And if you go into the international break in the bottom 6, then you're leaving yourself plenty of work to do.
That international break's been pretty horrific for Norwich the last 2 seasons, because I think, as you said, we lost 4-0 at Millwall last season going into the international break, and the season before that was a 3-0 defeat at Birmingham.
That's right, yeah, I remember that.
And obviously we know where they are this year, but we'll try not to focus on that too much, obviously. We'll be on for another 5 minutes or so make sure you get your questions in, and don't forget we'll of course all be at Bramall Lane. That's where we're going, isn't it, tomorrow? Yeah. Providing we work out the direction and we're not late, as I'm sure the City coach won't be either, which you asked.
Yeah,
I was, nailed that question, Pad. Happy with that?
Happy with that, yeah. Produced a smile and a laugh. I might ask Wilder that tomorrow if Norwich do the business.
Yeah.
Did the coach arrive on time?
Yeah, I'll go down well.
And then I'll get thrown out the window probably, but
Well, it'd make a great video, rest assured.
Yeah.
So get your questions in for the last 5 minutes or so, and we'll have full live coverage from Bramall Lane, PinkUn.com/live, and hopefully we'll send the coaches off as well in the morning, around 9:30 on the Facebook page, where you're watching now, unless it's on YouTube, so check that out, fb.me/thepinkun. A couple more questions on here. Simon Parker, any news on Russell Martin? Of course, we're waiting on, I guess, where his future lies, because by all accounts, he's definitely not going to be playing for Norwich while he's here. It did come up at the fans forum last night that Stuart Webber expects Russell to sort out a loan in the next couple of weeks because he wants to keep playing, and they'd had a discussion about whether he wanted to coach, whether he wanted to do something slightly different, but Russell feels he has a couple of years still of playing in him at least. He's 32, so it's not like he's well beyond it or anything. So I guess it's a question of waiting to see where he pops up. And you asked a couple of you asked Daniel about the loan situation as well, didn't you, at Colney today?
Yeah, no, not a lot doing at the minute, either in or out. I was more interested in probably in the Aarons and Cantwell sort of situation, for the simple reason that they've played midweek in the League Cup. That's fine, got some minutes on the pitch, but certainly when Jamal's back and fully fit and Ivo Pinto's in the mix, Aarons, is he going to get enough exposure? And the same for Cantwell higher up the pitch. And then you have a decision. It's almost a Ben Godfrey conundrum. Do you keep them around the group between now and January, bearing in mind that the rules now are once the 31st comes and goes, that's it. They can't go anywhere else. Or do you, bearing in mind how successful Cantwell was over in Holland, do you get some development football in terms of Football League experience, and then they come back in January and you reassess it? Real interesting conundrum. But Farke's reply to that was pretty unequivocal as far as he's concerned. Right here, right now, they're part of the first team squad. Cantwell's not available tomorrow; he's got a bit of an illness, but Aaron certainly is. And while he feels that they're able to make a difference for Norwich, then they won't be going anywhere. But I just don't see Cantwell and Aaron's being frontline options moving forward if all the other players are back and available. So that's one that'll play out over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Incoming, no, we didn't really push him on that, but I don't think going to be anything happening too soon. There isn't any urgency as far as Daniel's concerned. Asked him about this after Stevenage. Happy with the depth of his squad. Made the point, you bring new players in, you've got to give them a chance rather than park them on the bench and bring other new players in. So as long as the results are still of a nature where it looks to be a progressive curve, then I don't think we'll be looking to bring in too many loan players anytime soon. But as happened last time, it wasn't a loan player with Hanley, but after the Millwall game, that felt like a watershed, and they had to go and do something. If the results are suitably poor between now and the closing stages of the window, then you almost feel they have to act to freshen up the group, because it'll be pretty evident at that stage that maybe they haven't got enough in the current changing room, as it were. But in terms of Martin, in terms of Oliveira, both of those will be gone, I think, by the 31st.
It's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because the game at Cardiff is the 28th. Well, it's going to be the 28th or 29th, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's a Tuesday or Wednesday, with the international transfer window closing on the Friday.
Yeah.
So if Daniel is properly like, look, we've got a derby coming up, I'm going to protect that. Let's take a squad. He'll want those young guys around until that point, won't they? Yeah. Maybe we'll even see Nelson play. It'd be like, let's take a striker. You're not going to play at Ipswich, so I'm going to take Nelson. Can you imagine it?
That'd be entertaining.
Bring on the Nelson. Bang a hat trick, 3rd round. Could happen. Let's have a look at some more questions, shall we? Jez Arlo. I'd start Max Aarons at left back tomorrow. Stiepermann terrifies me when he's in that left back or left wing back role, as he never stays put. This is unless Jamal Lewis is fit, of course. What do you make of Max Aarons' debut on Tuesday night?
I didn't. I wouldn't say it was an eye-catching debut, but then I've seen one or two. I mean, Farke himself seems very happy with the guy, not in terms of just midweek, but going right back to Germany. The fact that he was fully part of the first team pool. Farke clearly has seen the same sort of things he saw in Maddison, and more probably relevant, Jamal Lewis. And if that is the case, then you would expect him to continue to get opportunities at first team level. But I can't honestly say he's leaving the same impression as Jamal did with me, but that's just my personal opinion. But he clearly has got something about him. He's combative. I like that. He's not phased at all by going in and probably missing out the under 23 step, as Matty Gill said on 2 or 3 occasions. He's literally bypassed that and gone straight in. And he's not overawed at all. Some of the pre-season games, particularly in Germany, he was throwing himself into challenges, which is a good trait, I think, in a young player, that he isn't overawed and he's here to make a statement. But for me, no. If Jamal Lewis is fit and able to do the job, he's a lot further down the development path for me than young Max.
It's interesting that I thought the one bit where he looked best going forwards was his one break on the right. And it will be nice to see him get a go at right back at some point as well, because he played quite a bit in pre-season at left back as well, didn't he? And it's that's out of position for him, but we'll see. We've plenty of time, I'm sure. David Platten says he'd like to see Godfrey alongside Tom Twybull in midfield, that is, tomorrow. What do you think? I mean, it's interesting. I've seen a few people think, not sure about Alex Tettey as the season started. I mean, let's be clear, he had almost no pre-season, and then played Birmingham, and then West Brom, and sort of did okay, I think, as we sort of expect Alex to. But I mean, there's an interesting one with Ben, because if Daniel did decide to play 3 at the back as well, would you pick Godfrey over Zimmerman, who would be a middle centre back? There's 2 discussions there, really.
Yeah,
I like Ben Godfrey.
I do. I think I think for me now he is a serious option, whether it's in a defensive holding play or in a 3. 2 might be a bit of a push, putting him in alongside another centre back. A lot of responsibility, and let's be honest, he played the whole of last season in a defensive midfield role. So there is a lot of experimentation still with Ben Godfrey in a defensive unit, but just his athleticism and his power. You can imagine a game like tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of periods when the ball spends more time in the air across midfield, certainly, and you know, if Norwich haven't got those type of operators, then you know they're going to probably come off second best. So yeah, I would agree. Ben Godfrey, get him in any which way at the minute, I think.
Love it. Brilliant stuff. Richard Sherwood, goalkeeper situation, concerned? Didn't actually come up, did it, today? But I guess we're kind of at a situation
it did before Stevenage, I think.
It did before Stevenage, right, exactly.
Farke was fairly sanguine about an error. Well, I mean, he said immediately after the game on Saturday that it's a once in a 3-year. Not sure he wanted to put a timeline like that on it, because I'm sure he'll be reminded of that if Krul throws another one in the next however many weeks. But
it's an important day for him tomorrow, though, isn't it, Tim Krul?
Yeah. But I wouldn't have any concerns for the simple reason it isn't a young keeper who's not been round the block. You know, this is a guy who went to the World Cup with Holland, played in the Premier League, and prior to his knee cruciate ligament injury, he was one of the better keepers in the Premier League. So he's 30 years of age. Fitness-wise, if there's no issues there, then he's certainly long way from being over the top. So no, I think he should bounce back tomorrow. If not, then that would be a concern. But no, I wouldn't have any fears about Krul in the sticks tomorrow.
Lovely jubbly. Ben Aquilina. A result and progression is needed at Sheffield United. We have the goals, but now we need to improve our defence and consistency. Good old Facebook. We need to make the most of the momentum during the game and season to get a chance to be in the playoffs. And Daniel once again spoke about momentum, how quickly it's lost as in the Championship as much as how quickly you win it. Lee Coates, Godfrey in a back three. He wants David Murison, big week ahead, and Michael Bailey's beard. You might have to change that name soon, but appreciated. James Husband, is he still here? And if so, why? Which is, of course, a slightly glib question for a serious point, which is, of course, that James Husband started the opening game of the season and now is, not being selected in the 18, seems completely out of it. And I think Mr. David Freezer has sort of said he thinks that's probably it for him now at the club. Never say never, but what do you think?
Well, I think we touched on that a little bit earlier in the debate. I mean, he's not. If Ivo Pinto is being preferred when the guy hasn't played any part of pre-season and is a right back, then the writing does appear to be on the wall, doesn't it? So
it does.
But moving parts, isn't there? It's one thing if Farke has made the same sort of call on him as he's clearly made on Russell Martin and Oliveira, but there then needs to be other actions in terms of whether we've seen the last of him in a Norwich shirt. But I think right here, right now, he's firmly on the fringes.
Firmly on the fringes, as are we at the moment, because we're here working away, busying ourselves. But I think we'll call it quits there. Thank you so much for your messages and time, much appreciated. Cheers, Pad, as always. PinkUn.com/live, full live coverage tomorrow, and as I said, we'll send the coaches off at the glorious time of 9:30ish. It's not too early to rise. We'll take that, won't we? We'll take that. And hopefully the sun will be shining. We have a good day tomorrow. In the meantime, PinkUn.com for all the top lines from Daniel Farke at today's press conference, Paddy's preview, and everything you need to know ahead of the game tomorrow. And we will see you then. Good night.